There have been an increasing number of reports indicating that the Trump administration is either denying passports to U.S. citizens or threatening to deport U.S. citizens while alleging that their birth certificates are fraudulent. So we're talking about people in the United States with legal status. They've been born in the United States, but the Trump administration is accusing them of having fraudulent birth certificates. Now, this has been a shtick of Donald Trump since the Obama administration when he questioned the legitimacy of Obama's birth certificate. But if you fast forward to what's happening today, you will see that innocent Americans are being targeted by his administration. Some of them are even spending time in detention centers as a result. So according to the Washington Post, a growing number of people whose official birth records show they were born in the United States, but who are now being denied passports, their citizenship suddenly thrown into question. The Trump administration is accusing hundreds and possibly thousands of Hispanics along the border of using fraudulent birth certificates since they were babies, and it is undertaking a widespread crackdown. So to give you some more detail into how horrible this is, in some cases, passport applicants with official U.S. certificates, birth certificates, are being jailed in immigration detention centers and entered into deportation proceedings. In others, they are stuck in Mexico, their passports suddenly revoked when they tried to re-enter the United States. In a statement, the State Department said that the U.S. Mexico border region happens to be an area of the country where there has been a significant incidence of citizenship fraud. So this all has to do with a story from decades ago. Apparently there was a small group of midwives who would deliver babies in people's homes. And in some of those cases, they falsified documents in order to give those children citizenship status, okay? So this is a really difficult story because this all happened in the 1950s. It is impossible to track down which birth certificates are legal, which are not, which are fraudulent, which are not. So the government alleges that from the 1950s through the 1990s, some midwives and physicians along the Texas-Mexico border provided U.S. birth certificates to babies who were actually born in Mexico. In a series of federal court cases in the 1990s, several birth attendants admitted to providing fraudulent documents. So again, that's terrible, but at the same time, U.S. officials have had a very difficult time trying to decipher which birth certificates are fake, which are real. And so there was this big case involving the ACLU, where the ACLU sued the federal government because in both the Bush administration and the Obama administration, the federal officials refused to give people born along that border passports because they couldn't prove that their birth certificates were legal and non-fraudulent. But then the ACLU gets involved and says, no, this is crazy because a lot of these people are US citizens and you're using this blanket policy on everyone that was born in this particular area. It's unlawful, you can't do that. And the court actually sided with the ACLU and the plaintiffs. Now in comes Trump. Trump doesn't care about precedent. Trump doesn't care about this settlement. He just decides, and his administration decides, well, we're just gonna punish everyone. In fact, we're going to put US citizens in detention facilities and deport them, even though in a lot of cases, these people might actually be US citizens.
So it's the broad brush approach to what's going on. Okay, so I read deeper also into the architect, the new architect. Previously it was Karl Rove. The new architect who's specifically in charge of immigration issues is Stephen Miller. We already know this, right? The 33-year-old kid, I think he's from California, barges in and has this approach, and honestly, he breaks barriers for which meetings he's supposed to be in. So this is a very long article, I was reading about it, but the real just quick summary of it, he barges into meetings, he sets up different approaches, he comes in like he owns the place and tells them, I'm the president's guy on immigration. This is what we're doing because immigrants are coming and killing Americans. We have to keep them from killing Americans. Killing Americans, killing Americans, killing Americans. Where have we heard that before and recently? So in doing that, he set up this precedent and also has the president's ear because that's exciting for Donald Trump to hear, and he likes seeing how this works. He was part of initiating the travel ban and family separation. So of course, when Trump is reading these long declarations, which we all know he didn't write, that's the guy. That's the brains behind these discriminatory, broad-based policies, and he's just putting his hatred on everyone else. He's also the one who had the uncle who came forward and said, I don't know why Stephen is like this. It's like he wasn't a part of this family that immigrated here.
Right, exactly.
So this is the brainchild of the whole thing. And Trump is kind of going along for the ride because he's like, this makes me look better, doesn't matter to anyone else. This is what I was promising when I appealed to all my racists that were voting for me in the general election. So now we're just on a roll. And now we're going to continue this.
Yeah, I mean, this was sort of settled, though, as Anna said. You know, in that ACLU case, this very situation down there at the border was pretty well handled. He wants there to be controversial policy in place when it comes to immigration. That's why the Muslim ban went down for that opening weekend the way it did, because the airports, you remember, didn't know what to do, and there were lawyers flooding. That's all Stephen Miller. He wants that. And in this case, he likes these headlines. He likes these controversies. And as we've said, Trump doesn't shy away from them either. He's saying, look, this is what you put me here for, to protect the people who really belong in this country. This is a hard, to call it a horrible policy, an abhorrent policy seems to just leave you shy of how bad it is. I mean, we're dealing with people who have served the country in the military and who have made substantial sacrifices. I mean, lifetime sacrifices. And we're talking about taking away their citizenship. So it's unconscionable.
Yeah, it is unconscionable. And the Washington Post highlights the story of a man by the name of Juan. He spent 3 years as a private in the Army, then as a cadet in border control, which is ironic. And now he is a prison guard. And he is being punished through this policy. Because remember, this is a blanket policy. If you happen to be born in this certain area, then the administration is going to question your citizenship and your right to be here. The vast majority of these people, I would claim, are here legally. They were actually born here. Again, the government can't decipher whether or not the documents are fraudulent, which is why it was such a problem under the Bush administration and the Obama administration, and the ACLU got involved as a result of that. But Trump, his administration, Stephen Miller, they don't care. Oh, you're Hispanic. Well, we don't, yeah, there's of course a possibility that you were born here, a good possibility, but we don't care. And so they deport them, and then what? If they're not citizens of Mexico or any other country, what are they supposed to do? Like, they don't like you if you're not white. They don't care. They don't care if you're a Mexican person or if you're any other nationality, race other than white. If you're here legally, you have a target on your back, and this is just more evidence of that. They want to go through citizenship records of people who are here legally to see if there are any inconsistencies or any fraudulent behavior. First of all, this administration has been so incompetent in dealing with any type of policy that they've put out, including the zero tolerance policy. There are hundreds of kids who still haven't been reunited with their parents. And so if we're going to trust them to go through immigration records or citizenship records or birth certificates to try to decide or figure out what's fraudulent and what's not, I don't know. I just feel like I wouldn't trust them to do that. They've done such a terrible job already.
That's a great point.
Absolutely.
You know, it didn't even occur to me. This administration can't do basic paperwork. I mean, they couldn't even record the names of the parents of kids they were separating, and they couldn't, so later that they could possibly match them up. Anna's so right. For them to then ask for additional paperwork, which is what they've done, they've asked for additional paperwork to prove your citizenship, as though why? Like you're going to review it and organize it in some way? You guys can't find your butt with both hands. It's absurd. And then there is additional supplemental paperwork provided them, and what happens? It doesn't matter. In one of these cases, at least, this guy who served the military and does have, he has the electric bills and he has all the other names. Or here's my babysitter's name when I was 5, and we can still reach her. Still insufficient, and his passport has still not been processed.
The objective was not for him to prove his citizenship. The objective was just to run him through this ringer and hope that he wouldn't have any proof. Again, you were getting some of those particulars. Evidence of his mother's prenatal care.
Right. Can anybody find those records, by the way? I was born here, United States, obviously.
I was born in Anaheim,
Hollywood, California. Yeah. I don't know how to get those records. Right. That's ridiculous.
His baptismal certificate, that didn't happen for me. Rental agreements from when he was a baby. I don't have rental agreements from my last 2 places.
Hold. So
that I've signed.
Baptismal certificates. how does that provide any evidence that an individual is in the country legally or that they were born in the country legally?
That's a great point. If anything could be falsified, it would be a baptismal certificate. I mean, it's of no legal standing.
Right.
And again, this is, if we're talking, again, I have a 6-year-old kid, and I would have trouble getting, first off, he doesn't have a baptismal certificate, but these types of paperwork for him from 2011 till now. So think about something from 1980, 1972. 1990, where would that be? It's not like it was digitally put in a place like we do many things now, which aren't even all there. There was never the point to do that.
Yeah.
So by the way, Juan again, military man, works as a prison guard.
Works for the border control, border control.
Border control, law enforcement, and support the troops. I don't think they really care about those things
don't care.
when it comes to people they really don't like.
Yeah. And by the way, I mean, how many examples do we have to show you where the Trump administration genuinely disrespects the troops, right?
Oh.
Every time.
How many DACA recipients have served in the military and he decided to revoke their protection to be here in the country? So that's where the real disrespect for our troops lies. It's not, it has nothing to do with NFL players peacefully kneeling to protest something legitimate. It's when the Trump administration specifically goes after people because of their skin color, regardless of whether or not they've served in the military, regardless of whether or not they're currently in the military. Did you know the TYT Network is now available on YouTube's new streaming platform, YouTube TV? Get access to full TYT episodes and exclusive shows by signing up for YouTube TV today. All new subscribers get a 7-day free trial, so head over to youtube.tv and search for TYT Network's channel.